Screw this, screw that, screw the whole thing. All right, why don't you tweet something out like you do?
Already did.
Done it.
All right.
Okay. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome into Talking Tuscaloosa. Luke Robinson along with Jimmy Stein, as always. Jimmy, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. Doing really well. We're number two.
And I'm thankful. Listen, I'm going to say this. First of all, I want to welcome any and everybody who is watching us right now, or if you're watching us later, or if you're listening to us later. We appreciate all that you do. Whatever the hell that is, we appreciate it. Why don't you tag me? You said you tweeted something out about this. Why don't you tag me on that? First of all,
it's because I was typing. I was going a million miles an hour. That's why.
I've seen you type. I've seen you type, and that's a lie.
Well, maybe not a million. Maybe not a million.
The test determined that was a lie.
I can type like a madman.
Yeah, as long as you don't like words. Just like
that's right.
Gaggles of letters jumbled together. Okay.
If there's no test.
But let's go back to, you said we're number two, which we are.
We're number two.
Which I'm totally fine with. I know Nick Saban, it was like it wasn't an early birthday, it was a birthday present for Nick Saban. And you know what? The committee nailed it. They got it 100% correct. How can anybody look at this and say, I mean, I listen to there's a show here locally with some friends of mine, and they're just going bananas. Like, how can you have Clemson up there? And they're Auburn fans. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want Clemson up there? It makes you look better. But they're like, well, I guess that loss to Syracuse just doesn't matter. No, it matters. It does matter. Of course it matters. If Clemson had lost to Syracuse, they'd probably be number one.
They'd be number one. Be number one.
So, but it does matter that they lost. However, what are you going to do? You're going to put Ohio State there? You can't really do that since Oklahoma beat them, and Oklahoma's only got one loss. And Oklahoma's one loss doesn't look nearly as bad as it once did.
Because it's football, I think fans, what they're doing, Luke, is they look at the long history of the AP poll and the coaches poll, and they think that's what we're doing here. But really what the committee's doing is far more like the NCAA basketball tournament. And the everybody knows that when the NCAA basketball committee goes in to do their playoff work and seed all the teams, here's one thing that's not in the room: the AP top 25.
Right.
They don't know what that is. They're not even looking at it. It doesn't mean anything to the basketball committee, and that's why I think some people get confused over the football thing. This is more like the NCAA basketball committee. This is not let's reshuffle the AP poll slightly. No, it's a brand new, we haven't ranked these teams after 8 weeks or 9 weeks of playing college football. We're going to start ranking them today, and that's why it looks different than the AP poll, although I would say it's not dramatically different. The 22nd team isn't number one, and the number one team isn't out of the poll. It's not dramatically different. It's just what I would call fine-tuned with a new set of applicable factors. And like you said, Luke, I agree 100%. I think they got it right. I think most weeks they get it right, not just this year, always. I think it's a bunch of smart football people, and I have no reason not to trust the committee based on 3 years of watching them do this.
No, I totally agree. And here's the other thing. First of all, it's kind of close to the AP poll because the AP poll isn't that far off. And
right.
You know what? The other thing, there's some people crying that Wisconsin or Miami wasn't in there because they're undefeated. But you have to penalize them for not
exactly.
playing anybody. And you can say, well, Wisconsin hadn't played anybody and Alabama hadn't played anybody either. But you give Alabama credit for at least trying to. They tried to schedule. They scheduled
right.
Florida State. They didn't try to. They successfully did it. And unfortunately, Florida State has hit the skids. Now, you can say BYU, maybe when Wisconsin scheduled them, they thought they'd be better. But BYU
right.
is butt right now. I mean, they're not just butt.
They're horrible.
Right, they're horrible. They're atrocious. And Florida State's not good either, but they're losing to pretty good teams like Wake Forest. You know, at least they beat Wake Forest. I don't think BYU could beat Wake Forest. And you know, and you know, Miami, for instance, if Miami wins out, they are a lock. If Miami's undefeated,
they win
having
out.
beaten Notre Dame, having won the ACC, having beaten Clemson championship game,
they're in.
They're in. Virginia Tech, they're in, man. So don't. Why do people? It fires me up that people get so fired up about this thing. Like
totally
Alabama
agree.
and Georgia, Alabama and how can you have two SECs 1 and 2? Well, because they look like the best two teams. Danny Cannell is big on, what's this stupid eye test? Well, damn, Danny, why watch the games then? Why not just pick up the paper the next day and see how you did? If that's the way you want to look at it, the eye test counts for something.
The eye test counted for a lot for Alabama. If one of the things, and I enjoy Reese Davis's interview of the chairman after they meet. I think it's very informational. And one of the things that Kirby Hocutt said last night as chairman is that it was a very passionate discussion about Alabama or Georgia at number one. I think when you look at the resume, who's beat who's played the tougher schedule, I think it's easy to rank Georgia ahead of Alabama. I think the fact that Kirby Hocutt described that conversation as extremely passionate is proof that they really do give huge credence to the eye test, because you can just imagine several people in the room saying, look, I've seen both these teams play and Alabama is better. And it's fine if somebody took that stance. It's fine with me if somebody took the other stance. That's okay too. I'm just saying, I think they do factor an eye test, and that's why Alabama almost was number one. That's why Wisconsin and Miami, despite being undefeated, are 9 and 10. That's because of eye test. And while it's true, Alabama hasn't played a much tougher schedule than Wisconsin, Alabama has consistently beat the shit out of who they're playing. Wisconsin hasn't looked as impressive, and that makes a difference. It all makes a difference. And one final thing I'll say about the rankings and how you said they don't mean a thing. I insist that the star you want by your name when they make their final rankings, the only ones that count, by the way, when they make their final rankings, the star you want by your name is conference champion. It is what I call a steroid shot to the resume of all those teams at the end. And until you can start putting stars by team's name denoting that they're a conference champion, you really don't know where anybody stands, because that is the strongest line on your resume in terms of what this committee is charged with doing. And that's why 11 of the 12 teams that have been picked to play in the playoff have been conference champions. 11 of the 12.
Well, and here's another thing. Some other people are look, I think we do this because of public demand. We make these, they come out with this ranking. I'd be willing to bet it. The committee would be like, hey guys, if we didn't think y'all would get on our ass about some stupid conspiracy theories, we wouldn't do this until the very end.
Right.
You know, we do this for your own
entertainment,
to entertainment, and because
and inform you. Entertain and inform in terms of what we're thinking.
And it's so funny because everybody gets so bent out of shape. You know, we shouldn't have rankings until this. Well, they wouldn't do rankings if we didn't eat it up. You know, everybody ranks everything.
People were watching last night.
Always ranked, and that people watched the shit out of that. Like I paused my 1-year-old daughter's trick or treating because it was easier to pause my DVR. Instead, I told my wife and 1-year-old daughter, "Y'all hold up. I don't want to miss this live. Your growing brain is less important to me than this playoff ranking, which means nothing."
This is why we love you.
And I understand, I understand I'm fully in the wrong. Like, I understand all that I just said makes me wrong, but it also, I was like everybody else. I mean, if you follow college football, you had to watch this and you had to watch it live. And again, people are so bent out of shape that so-and-so is ahead of so-and-so. Man, check back next week. The shit's going to be different. I mean,
what do you think if Alabama beats LSU and Georgia beats South Carolina, LSU being a stronger team than South Carolina? Is that enough to nudge Alabama number? I don't care, by the way. I don't care if it is or not, but I think it might be that. What I'm saying is I think it might be that close.
Now, but I'll say this, Jim. Okay, if it is that close, then number one, I would keep it the same. Number two, I want to keep it the same because I want this to be Nick Saban's motivation. But I mean, I'm trying to separate my Bammer-isms, Bammerness from this whole thing and say I think it should stay the same because here's the deal. If you switch it next week, which I could make the argument for, you could make the argument for it, but I think it's such a razor thin margin and it matters so little.
Back to next week.
You would go right back to next week, assuming Georgia beats Auburn and we beat Mississippi State.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. That's why I think it might be that close, which would be kind of fun and entertaining. That it's such a razor thin thing that it can go back and forth based on strength of opponent that weekend or performance that weekend. Obviously, if Alabama beats LSU 17-16 and Georgia beats South Carolina 63-0, then Alabama's not switching spots with Georgia. But anyway, and it doesn't matter. Alabama and Georgia play each other.
Right.
Alabama's going to have the opportunity. Yeah, they'll have the opportunity to be the #1 seed. That's going to be handed. What's interesting is, is Alabama and Georgia both going to be in the playoff? But the way I look at that, Luke, and while I love the question, and I think it would be fantastic if 2 SEC teams were in, I just don't think it can be answered because we don't know what's going to happen in the other conferences. If every other conference produces a champion with 0 or 1 loss, I don't think any wild cards are getting in, and I'm using wild card obviously for the
except Notre Dame.
Notre Dame maybe, but now you're going to have the problem of if Alabama beats Georgia.
But hold on a second, Jimmy.
If Alabama beats Georgia, are you putting Notre Dame in over Georgia?
Okay, I get where you're going with this. I do. I get you. I feel you. But and this is to me this will be where some people will say, well, that's why you need 6 teams or 8 teams. No, this is why you have 4 teams, because we're all so pissed already, and it didn't even. It's just now November. We're super pissed. We're like, we need cake. We're super mad, but it doesn't matter shit. I'm going to tell you, if Notre Dame wins out and Georgia wins out, except an SEC championship game, and I don't give a shit if it's on a last-second field goal, I think there's a better chance Notre Dame gets in, Georgia gets left out. I think it would go like this. The odds would be Georgia's left out as the best possibility. Georgia and Notre Dame both get in. Also, Alabama gets in, obviously. Or Georgia gets in and Notre Dame gets left out is the least of those possibilities.
That's just, and you're obviously based that on the Notre Dame's draw, the TV draw, the butts in the seat draw
schedule. Their overall schedule is better than Georgia's, even though Georgia beat them there.
I agree with that.
Listen to Notre Dame's schedule. They got to go to Miami. I'm assuming this is a bad assumption because I think Virginia Tech's going to beat Miami. Let's assume Miami wins, though. Okay.
Whoa.
Notre Dame's got Wake Forest this week, which is no joke. I mean, Wake Forest is 5-3. They're no joke.
Bowl team. They're a bowl team for sure.
Then they travel to Miami, which that's Catholics versus convicts, and everybody's going to be that's game day all day if both of them win this weekend. Then Navy Notre Dame, which is again not bad. It's a challenge. Navy's a bowl team. They're 5-2, and then Stanford at Stanford, and and you have Bryce Love. You'll have him going for the Heisman. And here's the other thing that people are going to lose their minds because they're going to say, well, Georgia got penalized because they have to play in an SEC title game. They do have that 13th data point, but you could look at it another way. Their 13th data point, Georgia's, could also be considered, and let me pull up their schedule real quickly if everybody would just hold tight with Daddy for a second, and I'll quit calling myself that. Appalachian State. You could say their 13th data point was Appalachian State because Notre Dame's worst game is either Miami of Ohio or Temple, and those are not bad teams.
No, both. I know Miami of Ohio almost beat Mississippi State in a bowl last year, so they're not horrid. And of course, Temple has been producing NFL players, and they're not quite what they were when they were really, really bad. So yeah, true. I'm a big fan of what Notre Dame has scheduled and what they've accomplished. And if Notre Dame finishes 11-1, I think they belong in the playoff. It's just a matter of how many teams will we be saying that Sunday morning after championship Saturday? How many teams will we be saying belong in the playoff? Because maybe 6 or 7 belong in the playoff, and that means 2 or 3 are sitting at home.
But see, I like that. I like that.
I would want conference champion by my name to feel good about Sunday morning, and Notre Dame's not going to have that. But has Notre Dame played the toughest schedule of all the contenders? Probably so. Probably so. Probably the toughest of everyone.
But Jimmy, I would rather some people be sitting at home going, "Damn it, we're the best one-loss team," than have 2 teams in that are sort of, we kind of don't deserve this, but we
won the conference.
You got
that's what I'm saying. If you're a 2-loss conference champion, I think you're out if there's other 0 and 1-loss good options. So don't be Colorado last year somehow winning the Pac-12 championship and then claim that you deserve a spot.
This is not, people equate this to various other aspects of life, but this isn't the death penalty where people go, I'd rather have no death penalty than one innocent man go to death. No, I'm fine with one innocent team getting left out. I'm fine with that. I'm not fine with an innocent man dying because my luck would be me.
Well, you were saying you were fine with one.
I'm fine. Well, no. I'm saying the 2 things aren't the same. I'm saying that
fine.
I'm saying I'm cool with an Ohio State, an Oklahoma, or both being left out because you know what? The moral of the story is don't lose.
Don't lose.
Do not lose, man. Stay unbeaten and play somebody, and you'll get in. You'll get in.
That's my pet peeve of all of it. It's fan, and I understand the bitching, I understand the moaning. Heck, I remember I'm still upset about Alabama being left out of the basketball tournament that happened back in like I think 03.
And I'm going to cut you off because I'm
still mad about
that. I'm going to let you finish. But I'm going to say this. See, that's messed up thinking right there too. And that's Alabama thinking. And I'm with you. I wanted Alabama in the tournament, obviously, and I'm an Alabama fan. But there's a part of me that follows sports that says there's no chance Alabama should have been playing for a national championship. And while South Carolina was a great story last year for them to make it to the Final Four, that's Cinderella, man. That's so cool. But we all know they're not national championship worthy, right? I mean, they're not a national championship team. I mean, in football, that's what separates football from basketball. You better do it all year long. You can't just get hot in March and do it.
Right. Well, when you have a smaller field, you better be worthy of inclusion, and that's obviously not a 68-team deal where several teams lost a bunch of games. But I'm just saying my pet peeve about the fan bases that get furious at the end. Don't lose 2 games and be furious you didn't get in. And I get why Penn State was upset last year. And I myself thought when weighing Penn State versus Ohio State a year ago, I sort of favored Penn State myself, even though I realized it was a very difficult call. But Penn State, while you're crying, you lost to Pitt. You lost to Pitt.
And got housed by Michigan.
You lost your right to complain when you lost on the field to a bad team. Or a not good team. And that's what I'm always going to say. The BCS, only one team got hosed by the BCS, and funny, Auburn, in the sense that the BCS treated every undefeated team very fairly, other than Auburn in 04. Other than that, they were the only undefeated Power 5 team not to make the BCS championship game. The college football playoff has also been very kind to undefeated teams. Win all your games, you're in. So when you lose, and especially if you lose twice, don't come a bitching. It's been obvious what your path is, and you lost.
Well, here's the thing: you play at most you play 13 games. Somebody's going to bitch because they don't get in when they lose 2 of those. It's so stupid. I mean, it's just don't lose, man. That's the key. I mean, and everybody says, well, Alabama gets all this, everybody can say Alabama gets all this favoritism or whatever. When Alabama lost, they had to fight and claw their way back. And see, here's the thing for Penn State for me. Some people wanted Penn State in that 4 slot because they were like, well, they only lost by 1 at Ohio State. That's not bad. It's the only team they play. That's it. That was their shot. And now if Penn State wants back in, you know what they better do? They better kick ass and take names the rest of the way. You can't beat Michigan State by 4. You got to beat them by 40. You got to show them that you're worthy of this. And if you sneak by all these teams, it's just like if Wisconsin had been winning these games by 50 every game and playing these jackrabbits they're playing, dead jackrabbits, then they'd be it. They might be in. They'd be 6. You know, they'd be ahead of some of these other guys instead of 9 or 10 or whatever they were
annihilating. If they were annihilating people, they'd be a lot closer to 1 or 2 than 10. No doubt.
No doubt. I mean, I've been. It's so funny because like I've been so irate about how irate everybody else is, which is very oxymoronic and just overall moronic.
Hilarious. It's also hilarious.
It's kind of hilarious. It's also shows that I need some more shit to worry about.
I only hate on the haters.
You know what I did yesterday?
The haters.
Let me tell you let me tell you about my weekend really quickly. That's enough about you. So I went to see my kids last weekend. I drove from Alabama to Columbus, Ohio, got there on Friday, and I hung out with them. So I was in Columbus, while the game was going on. It's raining and shitty and all that. So then I have to go to Penn State for work, like literally the campus. So I drive on Sunday from Columbus to Penn State in the shittiest weather. So you were
there in Columbus for Ohio State, Penn State, or at least there in town. Did you go to the game?
No.
You didn't go to the game. Okay.
No.
But then Sunday you happened to have to go to Penn State.
Correct.
Man.
So I know it's kind of weird.
You're like Stuart Mandel or Ivan Maisel.
Except I'm there when all the shit's already gone. Like I could have written an article about depression, I guess, when I got there Sunday. Like I met with the people Monday. They're like, "Did you see the game?" I'm like, "Well, hell yeah, I saw the game. What are you talking about?" I mean, yeah, I saw it. They're like, "That's why we're down." I was like, I kind of figured it. Like everybody is moping around here. I mean, like everybody had on sweatpants. Even the guys I was meeting with had on sweatpants that had been, they weren't even pulled up. Like they were dragging the ground. They were wet on the bottom from where it's been raining.
It was the summer of George.
It was a summer of
George for all of them.
But so I go through all that shitty weather, and it is pretty. I mean, like all the, is it foliage or foliage? Whatever.
Here we go again.
So I go through all that, and it's beautiful, and it's wet, but it's nasty, and nobody's driving, and the interstates are screwed up. Finally make my way to Sweet Home, Alabama, right? I finally get, like, I stop in Knoxville. It's weird. Like Columbus, then Penn State, then I'm in Knoxville. And then
Stuart Mandel, you're Pat 40.
I spend the night in Knoxville, get up like at 4 in the morning to start driving back to Alabama. I'm like, I'm making good time. I'm gonna get back in time for work, in time to get to trick or treat with my daughter, and then I can stop her from trick or treating to watch the college football playoffs. And I'm driving in the road, finally getting to Alabama, and a shitty cooter-faced deer runs out in front of me on the interstate, and I knock it to high heaven. Jimmy, if I'm lying, I'm down. I never saw it. It was a 4-point, and I didn't know.
Really?
I don't really know my points on deer. Yeah, I know. It's the first deer I've ever gotten. But not that way. I've hit 3 deer before, but this one, like, Jimmy, when it hit my car, I thought somebody had thrown something over the overpass onto my car, like a big brown box onto my car from the overpass. Like, what was that movie with Macaulay Culkin where he's like the bad seed or some shit, like the bad child or the shitty child? Yeah, Home Alone, evil.
Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2. Evil lives. And he throws it, and I hit that deer, and like there were 2 military guys behind me. They were good ways behind me, but they were behind me. And so they pulled over when I pulled over because like my front left quarter panel is gone. Like I look like a transformer. And so I pull a Taurus transformer. That'd be the world's shittiest transformer. So I pull over, and the military guys get out, and they're like, "Dude, you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, it shook me up for a second. I didn't even really know what it was at first. And they were like, "You knocked the shit out of that deer." They were like, "We figured you didn't see it because you didn't hit your brakes." And I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly right." And they said that deer went as high as the overpass. And so I went looking for the deer. I'm like, I got to see this deer now. And so I walk like 10, 15 yards back, and I was like, I can't believe it. Maybe it lived. Well, then I walked 20 yards back and walked to the median. I was in the right-hand side of the interstate going west, or I guess south on 59. And then I look on the median, 25 yards in back of me. That deer's in the middle of the median, literally cut in half. It's just in half. I mean, like, it had no shot. That deer had no shot. Soon as it hit, that deer was probably like, damn it, I regret everything. And like, then it's over. I immediately regret this decision.
I regret everything. That's hilarious.
So anyway,
I regret everything.
So it's hilarious. So then I get to ride home. I'm like, okay, I'm in Valley Head, Alabama. What do I do? I call AAA, and AAA puts me in touch with like the wrong wrecker at first. That wrecker's like in Utah or some shit. And so then they get me another wrecker, and the guy's like, "Yeah, now what?" And I was like, "I guess, can you tow me to LX City?" He's like,
"It was that bad." So the car was undrivable?
Yeah, the car. Well, I drove it past the overpass, and then I kept it on for a second. I was like, okay, let me just, and then the car was not drivable. Like the battery was dead.
I'm a car accident attorney, and my first question that comes to mind is, did the deer have insurance?
The deer came from a very wealthy deer family, but he had not been a part. They had exiled him. This deer had a lot of tattoos. He had a funky haircut. I don't know if he's got any money, man.
Dad stopped paying the premiums on the mandatory minimum liability insurance requirement in Alabama.
He didn't even have hoof coverage, man. I don't know.
Well, that's quite the gruesome story, and there goes our PETA sponsor.
Yeah, well, this episode brought to you by Venison Meatloaf.
Mommy, the radio man said a deer was cut in half by his car. Please tell me that doesn't happen.
I got to send it to Lawrence, and he can just put it up like randomly, sort of like a post-Halloween scare tactic to everybody. Anywho,
Well,
so that was my day.
Let that be a lesson to all the deer out there. As a message you sent to the deer about crossing your path.
What kind of moronic, dumbass deer crosses the interstate? You know, and I know they're in the rut or whatever it is. We just call it horny. We have to give it some technical, nature-rific name for deer.
So it doesn't sound awful.
Well, in the rut sounds worse than horny to me. I mean, I'm like I'm rutting. That would be.
And doesn't it mean it means the exact opposite to humans?
Does it? I thought rutting meant
what I mean
they
is,
want.
If you ask your single pal, you're like, hey, how's it going on the single scene? And he's
I'm in a rut.
Yeah. Awful. I'm in a rut.
No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, nobody ever says. What if horny means opposite for them? You're like, I'm so horny. Oh, dude, that's terrible.
Deer. You ask the deer, you're like, how's it going? And he's like, it is in a rut, man.
I'm rutting.
It is a rut out here.
I'm rutting left and right, baby. I'm getting all the rut I can handle. I've
rutted 3 times today.
There was so much rut at that bar last night. Oh my God. So yeah, I mean that would be.
She was a yearling, but I rutted the hell out of her. She was
I didn't check her ID. Yeah, she wore these real. Her hoof said no, but her antlers said, "Oh yeah."
Her antlers? I don't think they're true. I think you just lost your. I think you just lost your wildlife.
What kind of rut are you in, bro?
You're banging does with antlers. You got big problems.
Wait a minute, no female deer have any antlers at all?
No, I just know white.
They can have like a little nub or something, right? They have nothing.
I mean, I'm assuming there's got to be some gender misidentification going on there, where this doe is walking around going, I know I'm supposed to have horns, but I don't.
That is weird. When I hit this deer, like a dress flew off with a leather jacket. I didn't know what to think. There was lipstick and shit everywhere. I didn't even. And he had all these horns. I couldn't figure it out.
4-point, huh? You got a 4-point?
It was a 4-point. Yeah, I mean, I put it on Facebook. I didn't put the deer on Facebook. I thought that was.
I would hope not.
I did send it. Like some people, I'm in this flag football group, and like they asked, they said you can put it in here, and so I put it in there, and they were like, not a big deal.
Hey,
it's a pretty damn big deal to me.
You ought to take it to a taxidermist and get it mounted, since it's a 4-point, and put under it. You know how like hunters, instead of, for whatever reason, hunters feel better about themselves, instead of using the words "I killed it," "I snuffed it out," they use the word "harvested." So you could put, yeah, they do. So on like the plaque under your 4-point, it could say "harvested on I-59."
But didn't that kind of piss you off? Like deer don't even know about interstates. Didn't that? I mean, like, okay, I've hit a deer on a highway.
They see they see cars whizzing by. What do they think that's going to happen?
I think deer are that conceited. Like they think they're that fast.
Maybe you could be right. They could just all be a bunch of assholes. Could be.
Well, you know, Louis C.K. has a great bit about how big of an asshole deers are. Deer.
He does?
He talks about how like when he was living in the city and like he'd go to the country and they'd see a deer and he'd go, everybody be real quiet. It's a deer. It's a gift from God. Nobody make a move. Oh my God, it's beautiful. I'm so in love with you right now. I love all of you, all my children, all God's creatures. And then he said he lived in the country for a while, and he said he hated deer so much. He said he was out there throwing bottles and shit at them, trying to get. He's like, get out of here, you shitty deer! You're eating everything. You know, he said they eat everything, and he said they make these noises that don't make any sense. They just go. He said, if you're from the country, you hate deer. If you're in the city, you're just always like, oh my God, they're just such a gift. You know, I see God's beauty in their eyes. You know. Do you know there are more deer in the state of Alabama than there are people? No, there's
for real.
No, really?
For real. More deer. The deer herd in Alabama is bigger than the population of Alabama.
See, I'm so pro hunt. I don't want to be the one hunting. I don't like shooting things. I don't like I threw a rock at an armadillo in my yard and I felt bad about it. I mean, I hit it and I felt bad about it. And like the armadillo looked back at me like, I'm an armadillo, dude. You do something bigger than that. But like I feel bad. I don't like hunting myself. If you're listening to this and you're a hunter, thank you for your service. I appreciate what you do. I do.
Obviously.
I really am beginning to dislike. By the way, did you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm last Sunday? No, you didn't. You
have HBO. I'm poor.
There was a whole thing about, like, there was a war veteran that was dating somebody, one of his friends' daughters, whatever, and like the guy is being introduced to everybody, and everybody says, "Thank you for your service. So nice to meet you. Thank you for your service." And he gets to Larry, and he just says, "Very nice to meet you." And the guy just sort of, like, everybody just gets silent.
Like, he didn't say thank you for your service.
Yeah, and then the guy left, and everybody was like, "You're such an asshole. Why did?" He's like, "You all said it. Why do I have to say it too?" And I thought it had been said enough. And they were like, "Oh, you're just such an asshole." But it was so Seinfeldian. You know, that is such a Seinfeld thing. Because I never would have thought about it. Like, I would immediately say thank you for your service.
Because everybody else did.
Because everybody else did. But I mean, it's not that he has a point. I'm pro-military. I'm pro-hunting. We've already discussed this. I'm pro-guns, even though I don't have a gun. I know I'm much more likely to shoot a hole in my own bathroom mirror than I am to shoot an intruder. And so,
statistically correct.
I'm more likely to shoot a hole through my entire house than to shoot somebody that is trying to do anything bad to me.
Why would you need a gun when you're killing all these deer with your car?
I'm going to say,
it's so unnecessary.
Burglar, if you're on 59, your ass is mine. Around Valley Head area, exit 77, I'm running over your ass and cutting you in half, dude.
That's a great movie scene. Some burglar dressed all in black. You know, he's got a hood. He's sneaking around your kitchen. He's got his little burglar bag with him. He hears a sound, and his head goes up. He's like, "What was that sound?" He turns around. There's you in your car in the living room, in your Taurus, just jamming the accelerator and just running over him right there in the kitchen.
How about this? And it's an 80s movie, and I'm in my Taurus, and they show me really fast, and it's just my mouth, and it says, "You mess with the bull, you get the horns." And then I go through. How about that? In my Taurus. See the bull Taurus thing?
It's a crime we're not writing movies. It's a crime. We are so obviously Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting. We're so obviously that.
Light. Whatever the much lighter version of those two, without the sexual harassment accusations. By the way, is there anybody in Hollywood left that hadn't been accused of sexual harassment? Like, who was accused today? Somebody else was accused today, and I was thinking, they're running out of people to accuse. And I feel quite certain that all of them are guilty. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
But yeah, why not?
Everybody has put up with it for so long, knowing that these people are probably all scumbags, while they're sitting on their high horses telling us what scumbags we are, and then also buy my movie tickets. But I find it pretty ironic. But anyway, that's talking Hollywood. So we play LSU this week. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh yeah. We do that. We do that.
And we're 21.5-point favorite. And
there needs to be more female producers and directors. That would solve that problem, by the way. I was just thinking that would solve that problem, because we wouldn't have sexual harassment. You know what sexual harassment would be replaced by? Yes.
What? Yes. You know what Daniel Tosh said? You know what Daniel Tosh said about police brutality? He said, make every police officer black. He said, that solves the problem. Now, Daniel Tosh said it, not me, so nobody get mad at me. I'm just saying what Daniel Tosh said. And like, he had a whole bit about it. I listen to a lot of comedians. And he had a whole bit about it. And like all Daniel Tosh things is both completely absurd and makes some sense at the same time. And I think you're right. Like, have more female producers, you're going to have less sexual harassment. You've got a bunch of privileged douchebags up there sexually harassing everybody. And we all knew they were.
It's uncool. The casting couch.
I never understood I never understood somebody, like, I never understood people being that aggressive, because I was like, if they don't want you, that's a turn off. Like, I've never gone up to a girl and been like, "Hey, can I buy you a drink?" And then she's like, "No, I find you repulsive." And I've been like, "Oh, come on, give me a second chance." Like, if you already find me repulsive, there's like, where do I go from here? You just find me disgusting? No, I mean, like, it's not getting better. I'm like, if you accept my offer to buy you a drink, maybe we have a shot. But if you turn me down immediately, my being more aggressive isn't going to make me more attractive. Right.
It's like Seth MacFarlane's joke when he hosted the Oscars, that he made a joke about Harvey Weinstein years and years ago, before any of this was public. This is years ago.
Oh yeah.
And it was underhanded. He actually he knew Harvey Weinstein was guilty of all this stuff years ago. So it was kind of a jab at him, but it was also a funny joke. I remember when he told the joke, and I remember laughing because I thought it was funny. And they were just about to announce the list of the best actresses, and now the best female actor of the year. And Seth says, and the following list of ladies no longer have to pretend that Harvey Weinstein is attractive.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
And oh yeah, and I thought it was hilarious. Little did I know that it was actually a shot at Harvey because he had sexually harassed some girl that Seth knew.
Yeah, but I mean that's when you look at Harvey Weinstein, and I hate to do this, you hate to characterize somebody immediately, but you look at him and you think, yeah, that sounds kind of like he's an unattractive dude. I mean,
that's fair. He's also a billionaire. He's a billionaire,
and that can make up for some.
When you're a billionaire, you probably get some yeses. You're playing out of your league when you're a billionaire. He was just too over the top greedy and an asshole to go with it, I guess.
So did that? All right. How about looking at it another way? Did that really old dude that was confined to a wheelchair that looked literally like a melted candle? Did Anna Nicole Smith sexually harass him? Did she?
I think I just look at that as that was
you're sexually harassed by Anna Nicole Smith, is it really harassment? Because in that time she was hot.
She was a babe. Oh yeah, I watched a little documentary about her the other day when she was coming up through the ranks, however you want to call it. She was
coming up through the racks, I believe is what we say.
I just thought her American love story with the billionaire in the wheelchair, I just thought it was romantic. Perfect. Hey, he liked it, she liked it. I say good for them.
Think of it like The Notebook, but skankier.
Think of it like The Notebook.
The skanky Notebook.
Think of it like The Notebook, but instead of Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams being the people having sex, it's James Garner and Rachel McAdams.
It's a comatose James Garner with a really hot, skanky
Rachel McAdams. Yeah.
I'll tell you how fine she was. Like when she was in Playboy before she actually, I don't know if she might have had her boobs done once by this time, but she was in Playboy the first time and she was Vicky Smith. I know way too much about Anna Nicole Smith, and she spelled it with an I. But she already had. I don't mean this bad but at the time it was like early 90s or mid 90s or whatever. She had a child and like Playboy talked about the child, and I was thinking like that's not normal for Playboy to do that. You have to be really fine for Playboy to bring up the child you have because they normally didn't talk about that shit then. And
right.
It was, and I was like, oh my God, they nailed it. She is this good looking.
Right.
That's not exactly the sound I made, but she was that good looking. She was, oh my God, she was amazing. So anywho, so we play LSU.
Oh yeah. Alabama versus LSU.
Speaking of incredibly good-looking people, Ed Orgeron comes to
town. Ed and his impressive rack heading to town.
Do you think the T-Rex boy is going to come back? I know that was that 4 years ago? Was that 4 years ago?
I can't even keep track. You might be getting confused with the 4-point you cut in half with your Taurus.
No, you don't remember the guy going, like on
the
T-Rex boy. I don't know. I mean, how he didn't become more famous is crazy. He should have been.
You got a score for LSU?
Yeah, I do.
I feel strongly about a score. I feel like strongly.
Like you feel like we whipped their ass, don't you?
Sort of. This is kind of complicated. I'm saying I think we win something like 27-10, but there's a late score. So what I can't decide is, are we winning 27-3 and they score late to make it 27-10? Or are we winning 27-10 and we score late and really win 35-10?
I'm going to say, I thought you were going to say, do we score late and make it 27-10? Like it's 20-10.
I think the game result of Alabama's first team versus LSU's first team is 27-10. But I think there's a late score somewhere in here. So maybe Alabama beats LSU 27-3, but they score against our backups late to make the score 27-10. Or am I thinking more like, no, it's 27-10 when the first teams leave and Alabama's second team scores and makes it 35-10. But I think the score is going to be somewhere in that area. And I feel kind of kind of strongly about it.
Okay,
27 to 34 for Alabama, 3-10 for LSU.
I do not think we cover.
And I think
well, the line's around 21.5, 22. First of all, our line is always inflated. So I don't think we cover. I think LSU.
It's like Ann and Nicole.
Yeah,
like Ann and Nicole.
She's always inflated. I think that LSU's better than we want to give them credit for. Danny Elling's not a horrible quarterback anymore. He was until he played us last year, and then after our game with him last year, he got better. He was like, he thought, oh shit, nobody else is going to hit me this hard.
He had a great bowl game. His bowl game against, was it Louisville they played? He was really good.
Oh, he racked up in that game.
He's
not been bad this year. Jimmy, he's not been bad.
No, he's not horrid. He's just not good. But I think where he really struggles is when the level of difficulty goes up. So I'm anticipating him struggling quite a bit against Alabama. But what our own I swear to God, I think some of our fans, the only football they watch is Alabama. That's the only games they watch. And then their opinion about everything else is just based on nothing but what happened in the Alabama game. That's what I really think a lot of our fans do that. But anyway, what I'm saying is, the fact that Etling won't play well against Alabama doesn't mean anything about Danny Etling. Everybody did. The fact that Leonard Fournette couldn't rush for more than 33 yards against Alabama, how has that really affected his NFL career? Because that's one badass rookie running back in the NFL. True. I mean, what you do against Alabama means really nothing, because Alabama is just that good. It's not a fair test.
I agree. But okay, going back to what I was saying, I think that they're better than we think they are. I think that we are a little beat up. I think I've been saying this for weeks right here on Talkin Tuscaloosa. I believe somehow, some way, I don't know in what way, Jalen Hurts is hurt in some way. Now, you could say, well, it's the SEC and it's a rocky road, blah, blah, blah. He didn't do this shit last year. Last year, he would juke people. He didn't slide. This year, he's sliding like a mofo.
Yeah. I agree that he's playing. Again, people are going to make too much of it. I'm not saying he's injured, and I have no information that he is injured. I agree with you that his style of play is different to the point I'm questioning whether he's 100%. And I'm just using the word 100% because every player this time of the year for Alabama and LSU is battling some sort of bumps, bruises, something doesn't feel good. I'm assuming Jalen's in that category. I don't think he's really injured, or certainly not that I'm aware of, but I agree with you, Luke. There is a playing style difference right now that indicates to me that he's not 100%. And he might be a little heavier to me. Yes. Maybe that's just my failing eyesight. That's probably, and that's unfair. But he just looks a little heavier, which is indicative of someone who's not running a lot and working out. So I think he might be not 100%. But hey, of the 22 kids you're putting on the field this time of the year, how many are 100%? Almost none.
Okay, and I agree with that statement. Okay, I totally get, but I get why Daron Payne's not 100%. He's going crown to crown with somebody on every play. I get why Rashaan Evans not 100% because he's super fast. He's shot out of a cannon on every play. But Jalen Hurts,
his groin was torn in two, like he got hit by your Taurus.
I hit him with my Taurus and tore his groin in two. But Jalen Hurts doesn't get hit every play, and he's still looking. He's got that not so fresh feeling. That's what worries me.
And I'm not saying gimpy, just like I think his running style sort of lacks an aggression that it had a year ago. Some of that is smarts. Some of it's smarts. Some of it's smarts on his part. He needs to get hit less. He needs to get down. He needs to get out of bounds. So maybe it's, and again, that's why I'm not making too much of it. But I think it's an interesting talking point. What the hell else are we going to talk about?
No, I'm with you. And
we talked about Andy Nicole and Deer to death.
You can rationalize all the slides and the lack of whatever. You can say, hey, we're trying to force him to stay in the pocket and teach him to pass more. But, part of that to me is, okay, then some of that's on the coaching staff. I think you got to let Jalen be Jalen.
Correct.
Jalen is what he is, and I don't think we're going to turn him into Tom Brady. So let's let him. I mean, we can teach him to pass a little better, and you can develop some touch and some whatever, blah, blah, blah. But he's still not throwing a pretty a deep ball. He's not throwing a pretty intermediate ball. I mean, to be frank, but it's effective enough because people are scared of his legs. But if people begin to watch tape now and say, we don't have to be quite as scared of his legs anymore because he's not running with that same pizzazz he was last year, then that may make a difference. I personally believe we're going to see Tua Tagovailoa more this week than people even think we will.
I don't disagree with that, although I would say that we're still going to have a lead of some significance in the third quarter before that would happen. But I mean, for instance, if it's 14-10 in the third quarter, I don't think it will. Tua didn't play at all in that Texas A&M game. I think it was just too tight for Nick. And I think it'll be like that. If it's tight, I think it'll be all Jalen. If we get a lead, 27-10, 24-10, even third quarter, I think we might see some Tua. I think they want Tua to play. See, they don't want to just put Tua in at garbage time to hand off the ball and kill the clock. They want Tua to play with the first team running the real offense because it's the best way to give him actual experience. I mean, anybody can go into the game and just hand off the ball. That Montana Murphy kid could do that. Hannah Montana Murphy. You like that?
I do. I feel fine about it.
Sure, he doesn't like it. He probably doesn't like it at all.
He's pissed.
But I like it.
Speaking of names we won't get right, Emil.
Hey, we're the only podcast talking about him.
Damn good point. Unless he's got a podcast. He's like, his podcast is, why aren't more people talking about me? And then like next week he listens to this one. And then next week he goes, okay, I regret asking people to talk about me. They just made fun of me. Signing off. Okay.
What if his podcast is Alabama quarterback on Bama football? So everybody tunes in and everybody tunes in going, wow, here's a quarterback at Alabama. He's going to be telling us about the football team. And then you turn on his podcast and he's like, I want to talk about Deere and Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah, if this is your first Talking Tuscaloosa experience and you're like, I can't wait to get more football talk, you are so. But if you want to hear about deer cut in half and reverse sexual harassment,
the irony is,
podcast.
We're like the only podcast in May that's still breaking down the depth chart.
No, that is true. And I'll tell you something else that's kind of funny. Like I don't know if you got the stats down there at the bottom. I don't have stats. It says 2 viewers. I wonder if that's us.
Why are we watching this shit?
and like every now and again I'm looking at myself and I'm like, oh, okay, you should look at the camera. I'm like, why? It's just me and Jimmy. Who gives a shit? I can turn around if I want to. I just do the podcast like this. Okay. Speaking of names we were going to screw up, Emil Ekiafor. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Right. Ekiyor? I think it's Ekiyor, but I don't know.
I think that's the really donkey in Winnie the Pooh. But so
it's a big deal. Big deal. He's a big deal.
He's a big deal. Literally, he's a.
I ranked just for fun. I ranked our commits, and I don't have it in front of me, but I ranked our commits right after he committed because I was curious myself. So I think he's the best player committed to us in this class so far. I put him at number 1. That's what I'm saying. I know it's a lot to say, but I think he's the best prospect committed to us at this juncture. Soon to be passed because I'm pretty big on Nadab Joseph. I love him. I compare him to Clinton Dix. I think Nadab Joseph could commit to us over the weekend. I think that's very possible.
I'm going to say we get 2 commits this weekend. I think everybody who's been stressing about this is going to.
Maybe Panay Sewell. Maybe Panay Sewell. Utah.
Love his pasta.
He makes excellent penne. Hey, he looks like he's eating some pasta. That dude is huge.
He is not shying away. When you take him to Ruby Tuesday's pasta bar, he's like, yeah, this is home.
That dude's got a chest like Marcus Spears. What's your guess on Marcus Spears?
Chest like Anna Nicole Smith.
I want to ask him, what's your guess on Marcus Spears' chest size?
I don't know.
Jacket size. Like, what do you think Marcus Spears wears?
And he is so barrel-chested that he could gain a lot of weight and you'd never know it. Like, his chest would hide it very well. Yeah. Eventually, that'll leave him because I think that's the transition. Speaking of transitioning, that's the transition Ed Orgeron's going through right now. Like, he's less barrel-chested and is seeping downward. But Ed Orgeron still looks like a man's man. Like, I'm not sure I'd want him coaching my football team, but like, if this were The Walking Dead, and there were a zombie apocalypse, I'm finding Ed Orgeron. I'm like, can I just hang with you?
I think his Taurus cuts a deer in half on the interstate. he's eating that deer while it's still flopping around.
I think he cuts Tauruses in half on the interstate. I think it's more likely Ed Orgeron jumps out onto the interstate. People don't see him. They're like, oh shit! And you hit him with your car, and your car's cut in half, and you're like, I guess somebody's got to come tow me. And then Ed Orgeron puts you on his back and takes you to the nearest wrecker.
Tell him about it, JoJo.
I mean, we all joke about Orgeron. He got a pretty big win over Auburn.
I love Orgeron.
I want him in this league for a long time.
The league needs characters. Too many people. Too many coaches are boring. Orgeron's awesome. I could sit there, watch his press guy. I listen to him read the phone book.
But see, it's funny because
as long as it's a Southern Louisiana phone book.
Butch Jones, I think, has tried so hard to have personality, and his personality comes off as so fake. Ed Orgeron, say what you want to about him, he's Ed, man. That's him. I don't think this is some kind of front he puts up, man. Ed's Ed. Ed's that way when Ed's just doing other shit. Butch Jones seems like when he comes home, he probably takes off his crew cut wig and like hair goes everywhere or something. He looks like he's trying to be something different. Right?
I'm riffing off Herb Street here, but you know why Butch, I'm stealing this from Herb Street, but he was 100% accurate. You know why Butch Jones, it just isn't working out for him at Tennessee among 15 other reasons, but here's the main reason. Herb Street was mad about this, and the more I thought about it, the more I agreed. When that golden kid from Tennessee, when Tennessee scored the meaningless touchdown, and he gave the Alabama student section the double bird, and again, me and you laughed about it a week ago. It doesn't offend me because it's so silly. It's so mature and juvenile. It's petty. So silly. It's petty, and we're up by 78 touchdowns, and who cares? But Herb Street, if Butch Jones wanted to own his football team, he'd have jerked that kid off the field and made him take off his jersey's coming off, pal. Shoulder pads off. Back to the locker room, and you're walking to that locker room without wearing that T on your helmet, without wearing that orange jersey, you're out, because we're not going to act that way ever. And it's stuff like that that makes a football team. He put that kid, he was told by the official what the flag was for if he didn't see it himself, and the kid's out on the field on the next snap. There is no way Nick Saban would allow our play. Now, I'm not saying Nick would send somebody in the locker room, and I'm not saying there's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do this. I'm just saying that Nick wouldn't allow a kid to act like that and continue to play, at least without getting dressed down like he ain't never been dressed down in his life. And that's a big reason that Butch Jones is going to be fired by the end of this year, because that's a great look at the control he has over his football team, which is none. So, bye, Butch. Oh, man, I lost you. I can't hear you, pal. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I know you can't. Hang on.
Now I hear you.
I know you can't hear me. Like, you were doing this. I can't hear you. I was like, I thought my facial expressions let you know. I know you cannot hear me. But how many leadership reps do you think that was worth? 6? 6 leadership reps?
He probably got to take the garbage bucket home with him that night. Hey, great unsportsmanlike penalty. Here, bring the garbage can home. Just bring it back tomorrow. We need it.
But see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, all that, that's all such fake shit. Like, if Ed Orgeron came out with, like, every time we get a turnover, I give somebody the golden pot of gumbo. I mean, like, I'd be like, that's a pretty cool idea. But if Butch Jones does the exact same idea, like, I'm going to come out with the plastic trash can of nothingness for every turnover, we're like, you dumbass.
He's got the dork. He dorks out anything.
He's so
he dorks out things that are supposedly cool. He dorks it out immediately. If they ever had him on an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, it'd be canceled the next week.
There's no chance he buckles a bra successfully on the first try. There's no meanwhile, I think Ed Orgeron would just rip it off, in the throes of passion. And Butch Jones is back there like, he's trying to fumble in with it. Like, some people can't see me. I'm doing the little fumbling with the bra thing with my fingers.
Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, trust me.
That's what that looks like.
I Butch Jonesed a few moments in the backseat of my Taurus, so I know exactly how he feels.
There's all sorts of X-rated and R-rated shit going on with that Taurus. Good Lord.
I know the deer was probably like, hey man, it's probably time for a new Taurus anyway. This Taurus is pretty nasty. Okay, so your prediction for how much? Here's a disadvantage to doing this new broad. I don't know how long we've been doing this. How long we've been doing
a full hour? Full hour.
Have we really? Okay.
I mean, almost an hour.
Okay. Well, so let's wrap it up.
I got a couple predictions. Here we go.
All right, prediction. I want a prediction on this game. I want a prediction on Auburn, Texas A&M.
Auburn 34, A&M 17.
Okay, I dig it. I can get behind that.
Alabama 27, LSU 10.
With a late score.
with a late score by either Alabama or LSU. But I don't think LSU's late score is going to make it 27-17. It won't be that close. But how about this prediction on the negative side? Ready for this?
Yes.
I'm controversial, particularly with just a few seconds left. I think LSU rushes for 150 yards.
Jimmy, I swear to you, I was going to say LSU runs for $175 or more. There's no doubt in my mind.
I think that's true, and it won't change my opinion about Alabama's defense or run defense. I just think they're really good running the ball. Geis is a good back. Alabama's not what we were against the run, but still so good they'll limit. I mean, I'm talking about you limiting LSU to 150 yards. Pretty good, or even 175. Pretty good effort, because they're not going to throw it for 200 or 250, so they won't generate enough offense to score a lot of points and threaten Alabama. But I do think they'll have more success on the ground than what we've seen against Alabama for a while. I'm sort of expecting to see that.
And I agree with you 100%. In fact, I'm going to say $175, and I'm even going to go so far to say that's how they score their touchdown, like a 65, 70-yard touchdown run. And people are going to say the narrative, even though we're going to win 27-10, I think it's a good score. 30-10, that'll be my prediction. I don't want to be just like you. 30-10, but they have a 70-yard touchdown run, and the narrative will be after the game, see, you can run on Alabama. And really, it'll just be, we gave up a run. We gave up a long run. I mean, I'm sorry. The narrative after A&M was, well, Alabama's not unbeatable. First of all, nobody ever said they weren't unbeatable. But secondly, a lot of shit had to happen for A&M even to be in that contest. I mean, they had to do a lot of shit perfect to even be in the ball game. And, we kind of protected the lead there for a while. I mean, that was a more of a blowout than an 8-point win than it looked like. So anyway, that's my thing.
One thing to look for where we might be really wrong, one personnel thing, LSU is going to start 2 true freshmen on the offensive line.
That is true.
That's not a good recipe for success against Jeremy Pruitt's stormtroopers and that Alabama front seven. So we might be overshooting our optimism for LSU's run game this weekend. Two true freshman offensive linemen, not a good matchup against Alabama, but I still say, despite Alabama's stats, despite leading the nation in defense against the run, I still think it's not a soft spot for Alabama. It's just not what it was, and I'm not going to be surprised to see guys have 110, 125 yards. And like you said, if he just has one 60, 70-yard run, which he's highly capable of, then that cinches what we've predicted to happen.
Well, and here's the thing. Geis is a lot better right now than he was at the beginning of the year. And I said this before. Geis likes college football more than Leonard Fournette did. I think Leonard Fournette's going to be a much better pro, maybe even an all-pro kind of guy. Geis is going to be a good pro, but Geis likes playing in these games. Geis likes getting dirty. Leonard Fournette knew when he was in the 6th grade, I'm about to make a bunch of money playing in the NFL, and I don't need to kill myself in college. And Geis is like, I need to do a lot of shit to make my name out there. And it just feels like Geis appreciates college football more. I don't mean that as a shot at Fournette because he's a badass.
Well, I think Fournette was going to be a top 10, top 15 pick regardless of what he did in his junior year. But Geis, particularly because of the slow start to his junior year, Geis needs this finishing stretch to cement being a first-round pick, and I think he's going to do it.
The latest mock draft actually had Damian Harris taken before Darius Geis. Just saying.
I love hearing that, but I think when they go to Indianapolis, I would think Geis would test better, but I'm not positive about that either. And frankly, Damian Harris deserves a lot more credit than he gets, because at LSU, Geis is the show, and at Alabama, Damian's running back by committee. So I'm not slighting Damian in any way. I would just say, based on what I've seen to this point, I would draft Geis ahead of Harris. Not by much, though. Not by much. And I'd draft Barkley. I would draft Barkley number 1 overall.
Well, that's where the mock draft had him going, number 1 overall.
Number 1 overall. Yeah. I know that some people say never take a running back that high. I don't know.
Let me tell you what. If I did the draft again right now, I would take Fournette number 1.
Yeah.
Well, no. I would take Deshaun Watson number 1.
What about Kareem Hunt? Is leading the NFL. I mean, it took him in like the 5th round. I'm just saying, is Kareem Hunt's production for the Chiefs this year worthy of being a number 1 pick in the draft? My answer is yes.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I mean,
the NFL is so weird. They gave Marcel Darius a $500 million, and then they trade him for a 6th round pick. It's so weird. The NFL just I don't get it. The NFL is so much more interested in what can you do for me later than what are you doing for me now, even though Marcel's probably disappointing a little bit right now. Anyway.
Yeah, and I bet quarterbacks. I mean, I know that you can't swing a cat without hitting somebody saying something negative about Rosen, Darnold, and Josh Allen. But I'm sitting here, as we're saying right now, you know who the first picks in the draft are going to be next April? Darnold, Rosen, and Josh Allen.
No, there's no doubt.
The bad teams will fall in love with their upside before next April rolls around. And we'll have Kyle. We'll have Kyle on the show soon.
Let's do have him on there soon.
Yep.
Let's do that. If I can figure out how. I think I could invite him on here. I think I could make that happen. We have the technology.
The hilarious thing is, hopefully, we'll try to get Kyle on while we're live on the air to demonstrate to everyone how absolutely pathetic our technological skills are.
Yeah, we're going to have to start the broadcast before we invite him, so people can laugh at that.
Yeah, we'll have the first 40 minutes of the show. We'll be figuring out how to get Kyle on.
It'll just
then we'll have the hour-long show.
It'll just be us hitting Control-Alt-Delete a lot and going, "Oh shit, I don't know what to do."
All
right. Goodbye, my dear loving friends.
Yes. Everybody that loves deer turned this shit off a long time ago. Right about the time that deer got cut in half.
Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide. All right, see you, buddy.
All right, buddy. See you.
Bye.
Bye.